Oh,
Hello there.
let's talk about a great dinosaur movie called Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Now, it's always understandable when a studio chooses to make a sequel from an original film that was as successful as Jurassic Park. I mean, they are a business after all, and their number one priority is to always make a profit. Of course, just like any other studio out there, there's always going to be pressure on making sequels just bigger in every way possible. Otherwise, what really is the point of a sequel? Just my opinion, but I think there's no one purpose of a sequel. It can either be to further explore a character, or perhaps to delve deeper into the set universe, or maybe it's just part of a book, or maybe it was a planned trilogy like the Star Wars saga.
Rey Skywalker.
Now keep in mind I'm using the word planned here very loosely, so you know what? No problems there, right? If there was anyone that wanted another Jurassic Park film, it would be me, just because of how they left things off in The Lost World. It's just that I thought Universal might have learned their lesson on shit writing from that film, but instead they attempted to make a laughably written film like Jurassic World. And yes, we're talking about the first film first, or initially, cause it's hard not to rant on what started the downfall of this franchise in the first place. So let's just do a quickie on the first film that came out in 2015. Jurassic World is an enjoyable film. There, I said it. I mean, even if you look behind me, okay, I'm not gonna move, but you can see that I sacrificed my room space to put up a Jurassic World poster. Does that mean the film is good? Does that mean that I am in love with the movie? Absolutely not, right? I think you're allowed to enjoy terrible movies so long as you are aware of it and aren't always in denial when someone says that that film is terrible. You just gotta admit it, right? And just embrace it, right? If you love a terrible film, just love it. Who cares? And I think Rise of Skywalker is one of the worst movies ever made, but I enjoyed watching it the first time, just the first time, because there was so much shit that was going on screen. There's lightsabers and pew pew here and pew pew there and flying ships all around. It's almost like a baby experiencing the world for the first time. With that being said, what is my issue with Jurassic World? There are quite a few, but let's start from the beginning.
Welcome to Jurassic World.
Now, I do like the idea of the park opening up for the first time, as it never happened across the span of the three movies, and for, I think, really good reasons. However, this is something different, although I wouldn't have minded something more similar to the original with a few different subplots or perhaps interesting character dynamics. But either way, I suppose someone is going to be upset no matter what happens. Let's just take a look at Star Wars. The Force Awakens, too similar. The Last Jedi, too different. But you know what? In all honesty, that wasn't the problem with any of the Star Wars film. The writing and lack of planning with a little bit of agenda sprinkled on top with horrible characters like Rey, Rose Tico, wasted characters like Finn. I think those are the reasons why they ultimately failed. For that particular franchise. And yes, I'm going to take every opportunity I can to talk shit about Star Wars. But look, let's talk about Joker for a second, right? Every intellectual on the internet is giving the exact same review. Ooh, it's too similar to Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. Oh, congratulations. Well, I say so what, right? The movie was damn good, one of the best of last year, and it just goes to show, if you're going to copy or take inspiration from another film, don't disgrace it, but use those quality aspects to further enhance your own film. And that's exactly what Todd Phillips did with Joker, and I applaud him for that. So essentially, the story of Jurassic World is they attempted to do what John Hammond always dreamt of, opening up the park for everyone to experience some of the most amazing creatures that are dinosaurs. But the writers felt they needed to one-up this, right? People are apparently tired of seeing dinosaurs. Now, this might be quite subjective, but I still get excited seeing regular animals. Just the other day, I went to the zoo and was still in awe looking at the amazing tigers, lions, and elephants. I mean, I get excited seeing my dogs every single day. I'm just not buying that people are bored of seeing creatures that have been extinct for millions of years. There is also you know what, some self-awareness with the dialogue in this film, which kind of surprised me.
You know, I have a lot of respect for it. They didn't need these genetic hybrids. They just needed dinosaurs, real dinosaurs. That's kind of enough.
So let's talk a little bit about everything that did not work in Jurassic World. So first off, we have the divorce story. I have no idea what they were trying to do here. Why on earth do we need a divorce subplot with two characters who aren't even at the park, let alone have anything to do with the story? Is this really necessary to give a little bit of character to these kids? It had no purpose, it felt awkward and forced, and I have no idea how this didn't get cut immediately during the final screenplay reading. And speaking of divorce, let's talk about the kids. I always thought that the little one had potential because he could have been a character that we could somewhat relate to. He loves dinosaurs, he knows a lot about them, and just the sheer excitement he feels when he sees these creatures are exactly the way that I felt watching Jurassic Park for the first time as a kid. But they don't do anything interesting with him. He's just there to bond with his brother, and I use that word loosely, and then he's crying about the divorce and running away from the Indominus Rex and the other dinosaurs, and that's about it. And speaking of the brother, he's just this mopey, unlikable character that just hates his life for having to leave his girlfriend and is creepily staring at every other female to get his dick wet. Oh, but he's a teenager and all he cares about is girls, right? So that's realistic writing. Okay, if I was still a teenager and I had the opportunity to go to a park with actual dinosaurs, I think getting laid would be the last thing on my mind. The relationship between Owen and Claire, there is no chemistry between these characters. Not once do you feel anything for them, and to make things worse, there's so much garbage that comes out of Claire's mouth that you just assume she's a moron. I'm gonna further explain this when we talk about the core story, right? Chris Pratt's character is thankfully okay, just the bare minimum of what's considered acceptable. Most of what he says makes sense. He's always going against the narrative of other characters in the park, which makes it that much more logical, and Chris Pratt is, just a likable actor in general. Although I am a bit upset that he has to do one of the stupidest thing, or should I say the stupidest subplot, which is training the raptors. Oh boy, let's transition then into my favorite subplot. As I said, the military one, of course.
Some people think that robots are the future.
Look, nature gave us the most effective killing machines 75 million years ago. And now we know they can take orders. Drones can search
Vincent
tunnels
D'Onofrio,
and caves.
please stop
And they're
talking.
hackable.
Please
The minute
stop.
a real war
Just
breaks out, all that fancy
please
tech is
stop
gonna go
talking.
dark.
Are you guys hearing
That tech's
this?
not going to eat them if they forget to eat it.
Okay, I could tell you just a few things right off the bat as to why this wouldn't work. Firstly, you gotta keep up with the times. We have long-range guns now. Actually for centuries to be more specific, and not to mention that the raptors are in no way bulletproof. And attempting to transfer them from one location to another is going to be expensive, time-consuming, frustrating, and attempting to feed them to keep up their energy to fight is not only going to be costly but dangerous as well. And lastly, risking the raptor's precious life to fight human battles is just going to cause a rouse from animal lovers all around the planet and, many others, right? Lastly, the government is going to get involved and the whole thing is going to be a huge mess. So those are just a few things at the top of my head as to why this military subplot is one of the most laughably terrible things I've ever heard of. Oh, by the way, I have an exclusive of the writers actually having a little conversation / discussion about this very subplot. I have not laughed harder watching that one scene where Chris Pratt is riding the motorcycle with the raptor by his side chasing down a mutated T-Rex. This is dangerously close to the Fast and Furious franchise type of ridiculousness that is essentially a staple that we enjoy in Fast and Furious, but when you take that and put it into a film that's associated with Jurassic Park, arguably one of the most iconic and liked films of all time, it's just kind of disgraceful. And as much as I enjoyed laughing at the Jurassic World films, I'm actually really sad that we're never going to get a dinosaur film that's going to be better than the original or even on the same level, because as much as I love Jurassic Park, I do want to see a film that's better, or fine, I can settle for on par. Okay, let's talk about the core story. The Indominus Rex Okay, let's talk about the core story. The Indominus Rex Okay, let's talk about the core story, right? Let's just jump into it. So, the Indominus escaping. And as you all know, and probably in 100% agreement with me. This did not work from the very start. So let's go step by step, shall we? So first, Claire asks Owen to come in and evaluate the cage that was built for the Indominus Rex. Why would you want Mr. Raptor guy to evaluate the cage when you just said 10 minutes ago you had the best structural engineers who built the enclosure?
We have the best structural engineers in the world.
Yes, Chris Pratt's character is someone who understands dinosaurs, but this does not make him an expert in evaluating the safety of enclosures. So when Claire and Owen attempt to find the Indominus Rex, they start panicking as it does not pull up on any of their feeds. So what would a normal person do in this situation? Exactly, check for any breaches from the outside of the enclosure, and something as big as the Indominus Rex lurking around the park is sure to alert someone. And as Chris Pratt said, she's been in this cage all her life, never seen anything on the outside. Of course, if she was already out, she would have made some sort of chaos and alerted everyone at the park. But none of this happens, and I love how they made people go in the enclosure to find the dinosaur before actually using their tracking system. Yes, we do find out that the Indominus Rex has a tracking system in her, but instead of using it, they were just like, yeah, I'll just casually go into the cage with no weapons or tranquilizers or a plan. It'll be fine, right? The sheer stupidity of this writing is just laughable, but once again, very entertaining watching characters I don't care about getting eaten, right? And the only reason everything went to shit in Jurassic Park was because Dennis intentionally shut down the power so he could steal the embryos, and that is so well justified, unlike Jurassic World. So I want to know something. Is Claire supposed to be written as an unlikable character? Was that intentional? Was she supposed to be a moron? Like, is that a part of her character? Their contingency plan is to keep things quiet instead of alerting the people in the park that the deadliest dinosaur is on the loose. At least, that would give the time for the people in the park to take refuge and find somewhere safe to hide. I mean, this is just brilliant writing. I mean, unless it was intentional that these people were written to be idiots. I know how someone might defend Claire and say, yeah, she makes mistakes just like any human being would and later rectifies it, but she's just plain stupid, and the dialogue that she's given is so illogical and far from what an actual person would do in this situation. She feels like one of the androids from Detroit Become Human, but the problem is the androids from Detroit Become Human are more human than Claire is in this movie. Also, we know that the only reason the kids Claire was supposed to take care of in the first place ended up facing with the Indominus in the hamster ball was because they didn't take immediate action. Also, it always bothered me as to why the Indominus didn't jump from the waterfall into the water. Why is it afraid of water when they clearly stated it has jellyfish DNA? Okay, am I just an idiot for assuming that it should be in her DNA to be fine with water because of the jellyfish DNA? Did I or did I not bring up a semi-decent point right here? This is one of the greatest books ever written on dinosaurs, right? I present to you Triceratops had... Sorry about that. Also, let me introduce to you one of the greatest books ever written about dinosaurs. I present to you I Wonder Why Triceratops Had Horns. And as you can... Oops. As you can see on page 14, could any dinosaur swim? Dinosaurs may have been able to swim if they wanted to cross a river, but they didn't live in the water. So, dinosaurs could swim, and I don't understand why the Indominus didn't want to jump in the water, even though she had a plus point of the jellyfish DNA. Alright, so I just have one more thing to talk about, and this is not really a criticism, it's just me being nitpicky, but... Right, let's just go with it. So later on, Chris Pratt picks up the Indominus Rex's teeth, and keep in mind it has the T-Rex DNA, of course. Look at the size of the teeth that he picks up in the movie, and let's come back to this children's book. So, this right here is the actual size of the T-Rex's teeth. And as you can see, compared to my hand, it is massive, quite massive.
That's what she said. Michael.
And so the movie doesn't quite make it as accurate, as what the actual size of a T-Rex teeth should be. And if you guys want a general size of how big it is, it's probably the size of an XL dildo. But anyways, I'm not really going to flag them for such a small detail like this, since it really doesn't affect the brain dead story in any way, shape or form. But it's always nice when films go into extreme details just to please some of the more hardcore dinosaur lovers out there, and the more hardcore Jurassic Park lovers. And I'm not saying I'm one of them, because I had no idea about anything to do with these dinosaur details and all these scientific things. But I'm just saying there are so many people out there that would appreciate these kind of details, and especially for Universal that's spending so much money on films like this, I feel like they could have taken the extra effort to do some real research and just put in little details that the average viewer like me wouldn't notice, but some of the more hardcore dinosaur and Jurassic Park fans would notice. And yeah, it's just a nitpick, not really a criticism, but yeah, I just had to bring that up. Alright, so let's continue the story of the Indominus escaping, right? So they sent out a team to contain the asset, aka the Indominus, but they don't give them a plan. They don't mention it can camouflage. They don't give them any details on how dangerous and deadly this dinosaur is. Even real soldiers, right? I'm talking about in real life, they get briefings from their higher ups before they enter into the battlefield, so they know what to avoid, where to go, where they should take cover, and any important details about their enemies, so they can have the upper hand and essentially survive the battle, because that's the most important aspect, right? And it's ridiculous that there was no communication between the lab that made the dinosaur, the control room, and the people working in the enclosure itself. One of the basics of operations management is communication between departments, so that any important information is synced together, and from that, when anything goes wrong, it can be corrected immediately with a plan of action that should have been written up before the park was even open. This just looks like they were just, going with the flow. Exactly like the writing of the film. Every 10 to 15 minutes when the characters are in a tense situation with the Indominus, there's always a discovery of, it's part raptor, it's part jellyfish, it's part chameleon, it's part unicorn. They don't even take an effort to set up any of this in a clever way. It's just revealed like, yeah, oh, we're in a bunch of plants, so yeah, I remember it has camouflage. Bullshit, okay, bullshit. There's just so much that I hate about this film, but there are a few things I have to give it credit for, like the visuals of the dinosaur. They look good most of the time. Animatronics looked great, even though they didn't use as much as in the original, but I do appreciate them at least using them just for that extra sense of realism, especially when the characters are interacting with these dinosaurs close up. And speaking of the dinosaurs, I definitely enjoyed them eating people, and hence why I stand by my point of how this film is entertaining, solely because of the presence of dinosaurs and their lack of dialogue. Cause let's be honest, anything that comes out of the human characters' mouths are just fucking garbage. The star of the show is, of course, the Mosasaurus. She was damn cool and she deserved more screen time. She deserved better. And you're really telling me that people are getting bored of seeing this? I could see it a billion times and my jaw would still drop. Okay, so in the movie, she looks huge, right? But if we once again take a look at my book, as you can see, this is the Mosasaurus. And look at her. Compared to the other dinosaurs, they are so much bigger. Look at them. They're so huge. And yeah, so that's just a quick little comparison. She's just a shark among blue whales, right? So yeah, I found that pretty cool. And hope you guys learned something. I also think that they did a good enough job with the set. It does really feel like a theme park, and I know with a budget like that, it's expected to be good. But I'm just being as fair as possible. When I see something that's objectively good, I will always praise it, even if the overall film is terrible. I still think the set design of the original Jurassic Park is superior, and I just love that they showed even the merchandise for that extra bit of detail, and actually going to Universal Studios in Singapore and seeing the exact same merch that was in the Jurassic Park movie was almost like a dream come true. And unfortunately, they were expensive as hell, but if you love Jurassic Park, Universal Studios is a must. Other than that, I think the pacing of the film is fine. Every time the characters, start interacting with one another and you just want it to stop because of how bored you are with the shitty dialogue. A dinosaur pops up on screen or humans are getting eaten, and then the comedy aspect of Vincent D'Onofrio's subplot comes in and you're just there having a good time laughing at how retarded some of these things are. Good stuff, man. In conclusion, the story is garbage, the characters are rubbish, and the most likable characters ended up being the T-Rex and Blue, because they're essentially the heroes that risked their lives to save the morons that brought them back to life and caged them up as pets in the first place. And coolest character, of course, the Mosasaurus. And another praise I have to give is the design of the Indominus. It's pretty badass, and I'm glad they made it much more intelligent than every other human in this park. Oh boy, if you thought the first film was horrible enough, we now come to one of the biggest disgraces in cinematic history. I know most of you don't care after watching the first film, but it just made me angry that Universal managed to get away with releasing one of the worst written sequels that somehow one-upped the already, I don't want to use the word, but retarded Jurassic World. Here's the thing, if Jurassic World was a standalone film with no connections whatsoever to Jurassic Park, I wouldn't have cared as much, and I suppose I could even give it a pass, but this one fucks with the original and I'm not having that. So let me just break it down how painful this was to rewatch. 2-hour movie took me 4 sittings of 30-minute increments over the course of 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks to watch this entire movie. I'm also disgusted that I've seen this movie twice in cinemas because I hated it so much the first time. I had to see it again to make sure my hatred was accurate. From our opening scene, we see these people going in with their submarine without doing any prior checking. They didn't use any sort of thermal technology or tracking, and you're really telling me that these are the same people who genetically mutated dinosaurs with all sorts of DNAs from a bunch of animals as if they were in art class, but don't have the technology to at least check if any of the dinosaurs were still alive. So the purpose of all of this is to get a part of the Indominus for their future project, and we see the Mosasaurus, aka the coolest dinosaur ever. I love you so much, and I'm happy she at least got some screen time before the story goes into absolute shambles later on. So of course the T-Rex is alive, and visually it does look good, but isn't that to be expected? And just from the opening scene, by how idiotic the characters are, not for a second do I believe that these are the clowns working for a company that brought back dinosaurs to life. Oh boy. So the timeline for this film is essentially, it's been 3 years since the events of Jurassic World, and look, I'm an animal guy myself, but these dinosaurs were intentionally brought back, and now we have the chance to, let them die naturally through the volcanoes, as the story says is gonna happen. So I do 100% agree with Jeff Goldblum here. Let them go the way they're supposed to. There's no need to meddle anymore. I think the humans in this universe have put the dinosaurs through enough. Oh, and also fun fact, notice how Claire is using an iPhone here. So the company Apple essentially only allows the good guys of the film to use their products, and I did learn this from an episode of EFAP, so credit to them of course. But here's my issue, is Claire really a good guy in this film? Well, we'll find out soon enough. So Claire's whole mission is to ensure the dinosaurs are saved. Also, she has a line where she says, "They're all gonna die, but no one cares." That's funny. Remember when all those people died in the first movie and you didn't care? Yeah, there's not a single line of dialogue in this entire film where she has a conversation remembering her mistakes that led to the death of hundreds of people in the park. How am I supposed to empathize with this character? I just can't take her seriously. So Claire gets a call from Mr. Lockwood to come over to his mansion. Oh, and we're gonna talk about that mansion later on, right? So Mr. Bad Guy, yes, that's what I'm going to call him, Mr. Bad Guy explains that they have another island for the dinosaurs to live and roam free and, to be saved, but doesn't Isla Sona exist in this universe? Remember that second island? We are in the same Jurassic Park universe, yet that island is completely forgotten. Oh well. So Mr. Bad Guy lets us know that Blue is difficult to capture, and yes, I do agree, raptors were built up as one of the most intelligent creatures on the planet from the very first film, so I somewhat somewhat buy into the fact that they do need help from Chris Pratt's character to capture her. But when you look in the bigger scheme of things, anyone can literally, sedate her or tranquilize her with a gun, just a couple of shots and capture her. We don't actually need Owen in this film, but they needed a way to make his character relevant, I suppose. Hey, I'm not complaining. Chris Pratt is the most likable actor and character in these Jurassic World films. I just needed to point out that the plot could have went on without him. So we jump to the bar scene where there's an attempt to give some backstory on their relationship and further develop it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. No one cared in the first film and no one cares now. So we watch an old clip of Owen with the Raptors and they really aren't letting go of the subplot anytime soon, are they? Although I do buy into their, relationship itself, I'm just not believing that they can be trained and weaponized. I'm sorry, but that was stupid in the first film and it's still stupid now. Oh, hello there, clone girl. Oopsie. Spoiler alert. Wait a minute. I just realized. Oh, no. I just realized that the opening scene was worse than I thought. Remember, the whole world knew the dinosaurs were still alive. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any meetings, any government interferences, or Claire and her activists planning to save the dinosaurs, or even Mr. Lockwood and his plan to save the dinos. Yet they still had the audacity to make these guys in the submarine have a dialogue that specifically said, yeah, whatever was here is probably dead. No. I can't believe this is real. And even at minute 1644 of the movie, Mr. Bad Guy specifically said 11 species, maybe even more, are alive. And he even explicitly shows the pictures of all the dinosaur species. And look at that, it's the T-Rex. So you're telling me that he sent the operative team to the island and didn't even mention that the T-Rex was alive? Are you beginning to see how atrociously bad the writing is here? I didn't even realize this on my first two watches. I really am blown away at this point. There are many attempts throughout the movie to either recreate or do callbacks to the original, which was an actual good film, and they try to do the T-Rex footstep thing to build a bit of tension, but gotcha, it's just your friendly neighborhood long-necked dinosaur. Also, after 3 years, all the power on the island is working fine as ever. So to capture Blue, they came up with a fantastic tactical plan. Can I just ask, why was it necessary for Owen to risk his life? Okay, maybe they needed him as bait. But I think a giant piece of meat would have done the job. I mean, as it is, the soldiers were already surrounding Blue. Why wait? Just shoot her and sedate her when Owen was, distracting her. Why do they need to make it more complicated than it needs to be? And Mr. Commander guy here is just another generic character. They could have at least put a little effort to make him interesting, but I think that's asking a bit too much from the same people that thought weaponizing raptors was a great subplot idea, right? I'm not done with that subplot. I'm going to continue shitting on it, right? It just frustrates me so much, and any opportunity I have, I'm going to bring it up. So, yeah, the commander is brilliant. Good job. First of all, you lost a man, started a fight, and almost killed the prize that was supposed to give you your big bonus in the first place. Just brilliant. You know what? Despite how annoying and not funny he was in this movie, I actually found this actor to be decent in Detective Pikachu. And why I brought that up is because this just goes to show the direction for your actors are so important. So Claire and Mr. Nerd Guy, yes, I'm going to call him Mr. Nerd Guy, they're essentially stuck in the control room with a very deadly looking dinosaur. You gotta love how Claire is still making jokes in this situation, which is supposed to be very tense and deadly. And just from this, you just know they're going to be fine, and any sort of tension is just thrown out the window. I also love how the dinosaur takes its time to attack its prey. I mean, they really should be half past dead by now. At least one of them. It's all just very convenient, and that happens a lot through the film. So just bear with me because I'm going to be using the word convenient, and I'm going to be using it a lot for very good reasons. So lots happening right now. As you can see, beautiful dinosaurs, volcanoes, a fantastic looking island. Don't worry, this is the most exciting part of the film. It only goes downhill from here. And a pretty steep drop, to be quite frank with you. Once again, it's just quite unbelievable how none of the main characters were trampled by any one of these huge dinosaurs while they were running away from the volcano. We then get another attempt at a tense situation with the horned T-Rex. But don't worry, let's just pull another Jurassic Park moment where the T-Rex saves the main characters. Okay, it was cool the first time and just feels overdone by this point. I bet the writers thought they were so clever when they did this. Look, I'm not one to hate on callbacks, but when your film is so shit to the point where I just don't care what's going on anymore, and the callbacks just make me think about that great movie that came out decades ago, then you have failed, in my opinion. I don't understand why people were okay with this film. Right? In life, never settle for less, my kings and queens. You deserve nothing but the best. So, this is the absolute worst. So, don't like this movie. Just don't. So, our characters find themselves in a sticky situation inside the hamster ball, and I always find it hilarious as to how long these characters can hold their breath underwater. It's not just Fallen Kingdom that's guilty of this, but a lot of Hollywood movies, in all honesty, and it's bugged me since I was a kid. And it's still bugging me till this day. Look, unless you're an Olympic level swimmer, you're not holding your breath for more than 2 minutes. And that's for sure. So if you paid close attention, the dinosaurs looked like they were pretty much dead based on the chaos that ensued. I'm surprised that they somehow managed to capture quite a few of them, including the T-Rex. Why do I even bother to question things at this point? Like, why do I question the decisions that are being made? I should just turn off my brain and go with the flow, I suppose. Okay, this next scene right here pissed me off because how dare you play with my feelings like this? How dare you?
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
It's so sad that they left the long-necked dinosaur behind. Like, why would you do this? You're monsters. Alright, so this guy over here, who I'm going to be calling Mr. Twat, and Mr. Bad Guy are having a conversation regarding the dinosaurs, and it's revealed that they want to auction off the dinosaurs. Can you believe the writers being paid millions of dollars to come up with ideas for this film, and the best that they got to carry along the core story ended up being the antagonist auctioning off the dinosaurs? Oh, and don't worry, we will get into much detail about that auction later on. So despite how much I despise Fallen Kingdom, I do think the animatronics for the dinosaurs are great, especially in this scene with Blue. It's just incredible looking at the details of her skin, the movement of the dinosaur, and just the sheer amount of work the designers and the engineers put in is truly commendable. So really good job on that end. I mean, even with the T-Rex, looks phenomenal, and I'm surprised they didn't fail to mention the little detail that the T-Rex's skin is really thick, so it is a bit difficult to get the blood from her, as this scene right here where Chris Pratt is supposed to get the blood for the transfusion for Blue. And eventually the T-Rex does wake up, and once again our main character conveniently jumps through her deadly teeth instead of being devoured in half. So after getting out of the enclosure, Owen quickly asks Claire if she got the blood. Mate, why don't you just look down? Just tilt your head downwards, you can see that pack of blood. But I guess Claire had to raise it up for the camera. Okay. So Macy enters the lab where they make the dinosaurs, which is located under the mansion. And as those words came out of my mouth, the more I started to realize how idiotic the story is. But anyways, there's this room labeled restricted access and she just enters it. It's open to the entire world. No locks, no biometrics, no guards. I guess anyone can enter the restricted area, huh? I do have another question. So essentially Mr. Bad Guy has a whole lab and presumably a bunch of people working there, right? How do these people enter the lab without alerting Mr. Lockwood and the caretaker of the house? So Macy enters the restricted area and conveniently there's a nice little video loaded up for little Macy to just hit play, and of course it's the video of Chris Pratt and Blue. For God's sake, at least let her browse through other videos first and stumble upon this video by chance. I mean, at this point, are you guys even trying? Did you just give up completely? Now, I do understand this is to further develop the relationship of Owen and Blue, which I kinda like. Yes, you heard me right. I think the strongest relationship in the entire Jurassic World franchise is between Owen and Blue. And when I say Jurassic World franchise, I mean between Jurassic World 1 and this film. So not the whole franchise, but between these two movies. However, I'm still not on board and will never be on board with him training the raptor. And, you know, just the way they portrayed this entire thing, it's just so lazy. Yeah, you know what? Let's just make Macy watch a video. Yeah, cool, right? This is just like when the Justice League were introduced to Ben Affleck and Wonder Woman through an email, right? Fucking lazy writing. So we get our first sort of reveal of the Indoraptor, which is kept under the mansion, of course. I have so many questions. Did they create and raise her there? How do they get food supplies for this dinosaur? How does no one in the mansion living 3 floors above feel any sort of vibration or tremors, or let alone hear any unusual sounds like a fucking dinosaur roar? And has Mr. Lockwood never been curious enough to go down the basement? And is the caretaker duties extended to the basement? How was this script approved by professionals in the filmmaking industry? So that's another attempt, and yes, I do use the word attempt lightly here, as they try to develop Owen and Claire's relationship. Spoiler alert, once again, no one still cares. Alright, so we're essentially in the second half of the film as we see them bringing the dinosaurs into the mansion. This is real life, guys. This is actually happening. In case you forgot, this film is associated with the original Jurassic Park. So what happens next was something I never expected. Mr. Lockwood finds out Mr. Bad Guy's plan, and Mr. Bad Guy kills Mr. Lockwood by suffocating him with a pillow. Holy shit, that got pretty dark. Okay then. Also, we get his CGI mosquito stick breaking. Of course, we needed that shot. Yeah, I think like 10% of the budget went into that shot. But anyways, they managed to capture Owen and Claire, and once again, I'm quite blown away and surprised by the best and probably most accurate line of dialogue I've heard in this film.
Sell endangered species.
I saved these animals.
You betrayed a dying man for money.
Claire, I admire your idealism, but we both exploited these animals. At least I have the integrity to admit it.
Wow, Mr. Bad Guy, calm down, mate. You destroyed her with just one sentence. I've been saying this from the very beginning that Claire is not the protagonist, and the self-awareness from the dialogue is somewhat respectable. Okay, so all the bidders from all over the world arrive, and I still can't believe what I'm watching. Imagine making a Jurassic Park film that feels so constrained, dull, boring, uninteresting, uninspiring, and most of all, just unwatchable. The first 3, hell, you know what? The first 4 films at least felt like an adventure. This just feels like a setup episode from a TV show. It's disgraceful. Alright, so anyways, we get to my favorite scene ever in any movie ever. The bidding scene, of course.
I have $4 million. Anyone have 5? $5 million. $5 million. Do I hear 6? $6 million.
4 million. 4 million for a dinosaur. Did I hear that right? I remember watching it for the first time in cinemas, and thought I didn't hear it right. Perhaps there was something stuck in my ear, and after I dug out all the dirt, yep, I heard it right. 4 million. I really thought that it was 40 million, but no. 4 million for a dinosaur, guys. No. That is atrociously low as a starting price. I'm sorry, but they should at least have started it at $100 million. You're telling me these dinosaurs cost as much as a house or an expensive sports car or my fucking tuition fees? I'm sorry, but you've crossed the line now, right, writers? You've crossed the line. I can handle stupid writing to a certain extent, but don't you dare disrespect the value of dinosaurs like this. I can't go on any longer. This is too hard to watch. It's just too hard.
Hey, that's what she said.
So the auctioneer finally reveals the Indoraptor. Kinda reminds me of when they revealed King Kong. I mean, what could go wrong? Alright, I'm not gonna lie, the design looks pretty good. It's terrifying, the visuals look great. It's essentially a slightly smaller T-Rex sized velociraptor, so this means it has to be the deadliest dinosaur in existence, right? We'll find out soon enough, right? So the auctioneer mentions that it's still a prototype and modifications are still being made, and out of nowhere this Russian guy goes like 20 millions.
Now, modifications are still being made.
20 millions!
Oh my god, I'm watching a cartoon. I can't with this movie. They don't mention the exact number the Indoraptor was sold for. Wait, am I getting the name right? Yeah, it was Indominus in the first movie and okay. Okay, so they don't mention the exact number the Indoraptor was sold for, but as you can see on the LED board, it was about 40 million for the Indoraptor. 40 million. Okay, you know what? I've ranted enough on the pricing. I'm just done at this point. So everything goes into chaos when Owen lets the headbutt dinosaur into the auction room, and all of a sudden he becomes an action hero, easily taking out trained and armed guards, no problem. I just find it odd that with those sharp horns, don't you think it would literally pierce through the human's flesh at the same time they're being headbutted? So remember how stupid Mr. Commander guy is? He's not done yet. He has to one-up his stupidity right here. He sedates the Indoraptor and just calmly walks into the cage so that he can get its teeth. Alright, turns out she was faking being knocked out. Now my question is, why is she wasting time and playing around? He should have been instantly murdered, but I guess her priorities as a predator was to first look in the camera and entertain the audience. Anyways, he gets his arm bitten off and there is some blood, but realistically there should be more, but it's not really a complaint or anything. No one needs a Jurassic Park film to be rated R. So the visuals for the Indoraptor does look good here, and I especially love this shot, one of my favorites in the movie. We get a nice wide angle of the dinosaur, and I think if there's one thing that's decent in Fallen Kingdom, I would say it's definitely the cinematography. It's funny how I had the exact same opinion for The Last Jedi. You guys remember that movie? Try not to. So once again, in back-to-back movies, the Predator is let loose by acts of stupidity. So Mr. Evil Guy finally reveals that Macy is a clone girl, but all of a sudden, the Indoraptor just teleports down there and mauls the guy to death, I suppose. Look, I understand the Indoraptor is intelligent, but she knew how to use a lift to get downstairs. So Mr. Nerd Guy and Dr. Girl come up with a brilliant plan to hide behind the cage door, just like in Jurassic Park 3, but instead it was the raptor that was trapped. Let's do a little twist and trap the humans this time. Oh yeah, we're so clever. Alright, so the raptors get out and is mauling one of the guys, right? Then we have this other guy over here, and notice how he has an assault rifle. An assault rifle, a long range weapon, but instead of shooting it from a distance, he goes right into the kill zone of the raptor, and only then decides to shoot. I'm just sick and tired of characters doing this, and once again, it's not just Fallen Kingdom that's guilty of this. We've seen it across so many movies, and this is just poor action choreography, and this really needs to stop. Alright, we jump into our next scene where the Indoraptor, as we all know, is one of the deadliest predators on the planet. Very intelligent. Remember, she knows how to use the lift and kills people without any hesitation. And right here, she struggles to even catch up with our main characters, who's essentially playing Ring Around the Roses. This is supposed to be a very tense situation, and in all honesty, at least one person should be dead, and fine, the other two can run away. I mean, wouldn't that be more realistic? So they manage to escape the first time, but the Indoraptor finds them and breaks through the glass. And as you can see, Claire is in a prime position to be devoured, but the Indoraptor chooses to chase the little girl instead. You don't have to be a genius to know that this is not how predators work. When a crocodile is getting ready to feed on the buffaloes at the riverbank, the crocodile goes in for the closest prey, not bothering to chase down the ones that already ran away. It's ridiculous. Hey guys, remember that dumbwaiter scene in Jurassic Park? Yeah, let's just recreate that because we need more callbacks. Yay! I never mentioned this earlier on, but I hate the score. There's nothing unique or interesting about it. I know most don't care about the score, but the music you choose to put in your film can truly elevate it to new heights. Just quick examples: Star Wars, Jaws, original Jurassic Park, of course, Interstellar, The Dark Knight, or even if we're talking about one of the later movies, Joker. Amazing scores, right? Aw, that's so cute. The Indoraptor is playing with little Macy. I just love how the raptor is like, ooh, I better be quiet and open the door slowly. I don't want to wake her up. Why is it taking its time? Macy should be dead. She should be dead at this point. Just stop this. It's so contrived. This is of course done so Owen can conveniently show up to shoot it, only for Blue to conveniently show up at the right second to save Owen. Okay, calm down. Do you see how it just instant kills side characters, but it takes its sweet ass time to kill the main character? As the critical drinker would say, fuck off, film. I swear if I mention the word convenient one more time, I'm just gonna shoot my ex. I'm just gonna shoot my ex. What, you really thought I was gonna shoot myself? So Owen and Macy ends up in a bit of a pickle, but don't worry, Claire shows up conveniently and points the laser gun thing at Owen. But instead of taking a much more subtle approach, the camera literally pans towards the giant horn that's inevitably gonna kill the Indoraptor. This is not necessary. We already saw earlier on when the Indoraptor was standing above it. Your audience already got a glance of it. There's no need to make it so obvious and spoil what's gonna happen. Now, if they took that approach, at least the audience can be somewhat surprised and go like, oh yeah, earlier on it was standing on those horns. Now I remember, instead of, oh my god, they just literally pan towards those horns in such an obvious shot, and then like 10 seconds later, pia, that's how it died. No, don't do that. Okay, so anyway, the Indoraptor falls in slow motion, and yeah, of course it gets pierced through the horns, but as I said, it was spoiled earlier on. Essentially, toxic gas is slowly spreading in the basement where all the dinosaurs are at, and understandably the characters have a difficult decision to make. Now, I'm sure everyone wanted the dinosaurs to be saved, but at what cost? Allowing millions of people to die in the process? They could have maybe done a compromise, I suppose, by allowing the herbivores free and letting the carnivores die. So Claire was about to push the button, but of course they didn't allow her to because the audience is supposed to like her character, I guess, by the end of the movie. So let's just make Lil Macy do it because she's a little girl and we can forgive her, right?
I had to. They're alive. Like me.
Guys, she had to do it, okay? Because they're alive like her. Please understand. So Mr. Bad Guy gets eaten by the T-Rex, and next up is a bunch of children playing at the park, I suppose. What were they thinking? And speaking of thinking, I'm not sure what Owen was thinking of right here, but he goes up to Blue and tells her, "Come with me." It kind of feels like a romantic comedy when the guy asks the girl to leave her husband and go with him. Yeah, so if by the end you still don't understand why Fallen Kingdom felt more like an episode of TV rather than a movie, it's because it's a setup film for the finale. A fucking setup film. Alright, final thoughts. This movie is shit. Don't watch it. Bye bye.